Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jonathan from Year Y, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to bring you these conversations with leaders in their field related to living mindfully. As your moderator, I come to you with 30 plus years of experience in mental health and mindfulness. I like a particular quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. To be mindful is to be truly alive, present, and at one with those around you and with what you are doing. The story we're going to have the opportunity to hear about today truly is about being alive and present, and we're going to hear about that in a moment. Today's guest is a good friend, good family friend, Brady Silverwood. The topic is the real life Forrest Gump. Brady is the real life Forrest Gump. And today we're going to have the opportunity to understand what prompted him to take on this inspiring endeavor, the lessons that were learned along the way, and what are the next steps, so to speak. Welcome, Brady. Thanks for being here.
Hey, how's it going, Jonathan? Thank you so much. This is an honor. It's very exciting.
A pleasure to have the opportunity to sit down with you, so to speak. I want to pull a little bit of a bio, and this is from your book, 9 for 9. So I wouldn't have said this per se, but Brady was an average athlete and scholar growing up, self-effacing Brady. He studied business at the University of Arizona and then followed his dad, Jim's entrepreneurial spirit and background, started a clothing company called Sunny Co. Clothing. He started this with a friend of his in his senior year, and in 2018, December of 2018, sold the company, multi-million-dollar company, sold it at that time to pursue other interests, like running, which we're going to hear about. In 2019, Brady pulled the Forrest Gump. He ran 3,311 miles across the United States. During the course of that run, he raised over $42,000 and gave it to various charities that were of interest to him. So Brady, pleasure to have you. I must say, I am very fortunate that I got to bookend the experience. I remember back in March, it was the weekend that you're going to take off on this run, and you and a friend and my daughter had brunch together. I think that afternoon you were going out to buy the RV or rent the RV for your excursion, and then you were taking off from there. And then on the back end, I got to be a part of that run down to the Pacific Ocean as you finished. So what a phenomenal experience for me to witness.
Yeah, I know, like just thinking about how in New York, I really didn't have everything mapped out still. And like you said, we hadn't even rented an RV yet. So I was just taking it, step by step as it went. And yeah, to have you there on that last day, wow.
So I'm curious, how did we get here? I mean, here we are talking about it. Almost a year passed when you've completed this incredible feat. And I prefaced what was going on as you pursued running, but how did you come up with this whole idea, this pursuit to run across America, to be the Forrest Gump, to raise money for charity? What was going on? What inspired you?
Of course. So like you said, I started a clothing company in my senior year of college, and my dad was an entrepreneur. I always looked up to the things he's done in his life, and I knew I wanted to have a company. And I started this company with my friend out of our apartment complex, and I literally had skirts in my closet. We were just bootstrapping the thing. We'd go door to door, talking at different sorority chapters. We were just, really starting from the ground up. And we built that company to a very well-known company. And I guess along that way, I really started to search, self-reflect on what my purpose was in life. And I got to the point where I couldn't even answer the question of why that company existed. And I think that's such an important question we have to ask ourselves in our lives, is why we do certain things. And if you know the answer, but you don't believe that that is what you should be doing, then you might have to take a new route. And that's what I did. I knew I didn't want to be doing that company, I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And that was very scary for me. And I found myself, very unmotivated on certain days, just kind of partying a lot. And throughout this time period, one of my friends dragged me to a run club on a Saturday morning, and I was hungover. I didn't want to go. I hated running. Growing up, I didn't do track or cross country or any of that. I played like baseball and volleyball, like not very heavy running sports. And so when he said this, I didn't want to go, but I was like, you know what, maybe I can meet some people out in LA. And it turned out being such a great thing for me. Just getting 3 miles done on an early Saturday morning, I felt like, wow, I can conquer the world. Uh, but no, I didn't go back to the run club every Saturday. The founder of the run club got my number, and he really kept me accountable. He would text me every week, Brady, are you going to be at run club again? And his name's Luke, and God bless Luke, he's the man. But I would text him back those first few weeks, Jonathan, and just lie and be like, oh no, I'm not feeling good, or I slept past my alarm. And then somewhere along the lines, maybe like a month or two after first going, I started to go every Saturday. And I started to, even the Friday night before, I wouldn't go out and party. I wanted to feel good on that Saturday, and not have any excuse for why I couldn't go. And then I started to, this was when I knew something weird's happening. I started to run in between the week just on my own, and just being around that running community. Now we're talking about October 2018. They were all talking about half marathons and marathons. And but up until that point, I had only maybe done a 5K 3 mile race, and that was it. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for a half marathon. So I signed up for a half marathon in November of 2018. And my dad came out to Santa Monica to watch me. And it was such a emotional run for me. And I never knew I was capable of even running 13 miles. Before that, I had only ran 10. And so when I did that, I really started to question what I was capable of. I think it was kind of a moment where I was like, maybe I'm I guess maybe there's more for me. Maybe my potential is greater than I think it is. And then I signed up for the LA Marathon. That was in March of 2019. And that same month, I just rolled over in my bed one morning and I wrote in my journal, that person that could barely run 3 miles, that was depressed, unmotivated, not sure where he was going to go in life. How cool would it be if that person could run 3,000 miles across the country? And 2 months later, you know the story. I went out to New York City first, rented an RV out in New Jersey. My college buddy, Nate Heiser, called him up. He wanted to go on this crazy adventure with me and help me out. And on May 5th, that's when I touched the Atlantic Ocean and started running west.
It's an amazing story. I like how you go back to your roots of that LA Run Club and your kind of relationship with them. And
actually
how
wearing their shirt right here, Grand Running Club.
Nice. And just the accountability that provided. It was not just about running. It was a supportive community that I actually remember. They also came out at different points as you were running across the country and joined you, and they came down from LA to finish the run with you. But it's interesting to me, it's almost curious, so to speak, that you pursued running, because I know you had a goal and you had a certain expectation what would happen when you did those first races, and you had a lot built up on that. And Brady, you've always impressed me as someone very reflective and thoughtful, and there's various lessons that you've brought through. And I remember one of the things you commented is it's more about the journey than the destination. And you related that really to your one of your first races, when you had expected you'd have this euphoria, this sense of accomplishment, and it didn't quite fit that initially.
Yeah, and I think not even just in running, in so many things, whether you want to win a Grammy if you're a musician or whatever industry you're in, I think so many of us are focused on getting to that finish line and maybe getting that paycheck or that reward. And right when you get it, you think like, that's what's going to be worth it. And so, yeah, when I did that marathon, I remember I my body just hurt. I didn't feel like that great when I crossed the finish line. I was just like, thank God that's over. And yeah, I remember just telling myself, you know what, this run across the country is going to be so long. I don't want to look back on it and be like, I was only focused on, the miles ahead or the states ahead. And, I really want to take in the whole experience. And like some of my favorite moments were honestly, the moments that were just so still and calm. Like we were in, I think it was Virginia, and we just rented a campsite for the night, and we were skipping rocks on this lake, and it was just so calm and peaceful. Arizona, we slept under the stars one night in the middle of nowhere. So there's so many moments like that. And it really also, I talk about this in the book, but I had to stay grounded. I had to stay in the present, because anytime my mind would go way off in the, all the states and miles I had left, it would really mess with my mind, and I would start getting very overwhelmed.
Well, I think about when you're taking on something like running across the United States, it would be an incredible challenge to stay present in the moment. And that's really what we talk about in terms of living mindfully, that you accept that moment for whatever it offers, because that moment will pass, good, bad, or indifferent. And then there'll be other moments, other experiences. You use the term underthink it. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a funny term. Yeah, I was, so much of my life. Well, also I talk about this when I was in like high school, let's say, when I would think of what I wanted to do when I was older, I honestly did not have that much confidence. And a lot of the times I thought that I was always going to like, my dad is tremendously successful and he's done all these amazing things. And I always just felt like I was going to like not be able to do that, not be able to do those things. And so when I was in college and I started just taking some risks and chances, I started to realize that a lot of people, including myself, I would just put these people on these huge pedestals, like they don't go through challenges or everything is just easy for them. And I started to realize I messed up so many times with my company, so many times on the run even, but I almost was learning as I went. So underthink it is kind of like, you don't need that 5-year business plan when you're starting a company. Just start with a name, then start with a product, then find a manufacturer, then put up your website, then start selling it. It's like you can just go step by step. You don't need you don't need to know all the steps when you start.
Kind of like running across the country.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you going to get there? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to stay? Well, you start running 10 miles, 20 miles a day. You just start the process.
Yeah.
So I like the whole idea of underthink it. I remember you had kind of an epiphany about not all problems are bad. And I think it relates more to your company, but it relates to life as well.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was the example I used in the book, but that was just as relatable on my run. It's kind of just seeing the good in every situation. So I think a lot of the time when we're going through a struggle or pain or whatever it is, we just want to get past it, and that's all we care about. But I think there's so many lessons in the pain, and I realized that on my run is there kind of is a beauty of when I was injured in Arkansas. Up until that point, I was trying to control every aspect of the run. And when I got injured, I really had to, just give everything up. I felt like I was giving up all my control. And there was a beauty in knowing that, I just had to control my attitude. And I think sometimes whatever is thrown at us, we forget that we can still control our attitude and how we approach the situation. Maybe you can't change something, if you, I don't know, break your foot or something, you might not be able to get that healed right away, but you can approach a situation as, well, I'm going to do everything I can every single day heal it and to get back on track, as opposed to just not wanting to accept the situation and maybe be upset about it. It's way easier said than done. Like when I first got injured, I was like, why is this happening to me? Like, I had ran 1,400 miles and that I had put everything into this, broke up with my girlfriend before even starting. And, I sacrificed a lot. So it definitely went through my head of like, this could be over in a second. But I also remember I cried and it was like this like really emotional moment. And I thought that was actually pretty cool because I understood, wow, this means so much to me. And I'm going to do everything that I can to get this done. And at the end of the day, that's all we can really do is just give it our all,
Yeah, and I can hear that that passion and that desire of how much it meant to you just in your voice as you talk. And I think about how important that mental, emotional, psychological grounding, staying centered would be. Because you're right, all of us could start on that journey, and then 1,400 miles in, your body's gonna feel different things, and the most things will pass in time, but psychologically, mentally, a lot of that could, set you in different directions. So I'm just curious, what was your self-care and how did you keep yourself grounded on a journey of such duration?
Oh man. Honestly, the the running in a sense was such a good meditation, I think, for me. And then other than that, I really do think it was so crucial us going out and meeting people. I say this to Nate all the time is that I really believe that certain people were like placed on our path for a reason out there. And, our interactions, I remember I talk about this in the book, but in West Virginia is one of my favorite encounters. I was just walking through the town late at night and I saw this kid running by and I was like, this is a small town. And I think I just yelled at him like, hey, you a runner or something like that. And he invited me over to his house for breakfast the next day. And it totally derailed, I guess, my normal routine. And I was a little nervous of going away from the routine. But those things became almost such fuel for me on the trip. And any time I could see, oh, maybe we can have an encounter with these people over here, I wanted to do that because it just gave us so much more perspective. We were in our like little bubble out there and it would just take us out of it for a second. And, it was definitely a process. You run a race or you playing a football game, it's only a couple hours. So for that time, you really focus in. But what I was doing, it was like a nonstop challenge in a sense. So it really helped to get out of the challenge, meet people. We would actually go to movie theaters in every single state. That was a fun thing we did before they got shut down and stuff,
Different era, but I would think it makes the whole experience that much richer. You're not just running from this city to that city to get to that city. It's the people, the culture, the experiences that you have along the way. I'm trying to remember, there was something in your book about a scarf that you were gifted.
Oh yeah, from Rose. That was in Virginia. And yeah, it was just about a month into the run. And I remember the morning it's all about how you approach the morning. So if I wake up not feeling good, it's like, all right, let's get past that. Let's start stretching. Let's get our clothes on. Let's get moving. And the moment you kind of get too caught up in that, it can really change your morning. And that morning, I had an ingrown toenail and it was hurting so bad. And I remember I was like, I don't know, I was trying to do like, I don't know, I was trying to be like a doctor in the RV with my nail. And I remember finally I just started getting out my shoes. And then in the parking lot, we met this woman named Rose. And she was just like, again, like I said, I think there are certain people placed on her path for a reason. She was just like glowing and her energy was just amazing. And she was wearing like this USA shirt. She was from Italy originally. That's where she was born and then migrated over here to America. And she literally gifted me a scarf and a USA scarf. And I took a picture with her and kept that scarf with me in the RV the whole rest of the run. And yeah, again, took me out of that little bubble. Just realized it's not all about me and what I'm doing right now. If anything, she inspired me a lot to just like, wow, look at all the things that she's done just to get to this point of her life, and how grateful she was. So that was another thing, is just there's everyone would always talk about how much pain I'm in. Oh, how are your legs holding up? That was the number one most asked question from strangers. How are your legs holding up? And just realizing that everyone goes through pain, everyone goes through troubles, and maybe something I'm grateful for, someone else doesn't receive that in their life, or vice versa. So you just have to, I think that really helped me, having those grateful affirmations.
I really appreciate what you're saying. I've had the chance to do endurance stuff, and when I would embark on something, my mantra was always to meet whatever challenge is presented, because
Mm-hmm.
challenges are going to be presented, and
Yeah.
you did that time and time again. So I greatly admire you practicing that. I know
Yeah.
throughout your journey you were gifting to particular charities. Share a little bit about how you chose charities and experiences that you had with that.
Yeah. So, you know, at first I didn't know what I was going to do. And my siblings were just like, you're going to be on this run for so long and bringing so much attention to your run. Why don't you just raise money for a couple charities? So the first couple I had were like National Alliance on Mental Illness. I've gone through depression, and I really just believe that mental health is something that isn't as talked about as, say, physical health. That one is always talked about, but uh, I wanted to shed some light on that, so I ran for NAMI. Make a Wish. My sister Caitlin, she actually was granted a wish growing up, and she's a cancer survivor now. And I love how even with that organization, it's again about getting them outside, and for just one day or how many ever days it is, letting them experience life and getting them outside of the hospital. And I just remember for us, like, that was just the coolest thing, to get our family outside of the hospital all together, having fun. We went to Universal Studios and met the Gilmore Girls at Warner Brothers. And so yeah, I ran for them. And then Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, Liam Hearn, and how much he's meant to our community. And I just wanted to raise some more awareness for that. And I remember, so my initial plan was to like raise money for a new charity every month. And then I noticed it was kind of distracting me, just not knowing which ones I'd run for. So one day in the RV, I just picked all the charities. And as I started picking them, I was like, oh, that would be another cool one to run for. And that would be another cool one. So I ended up just running for 12 total. But yeah, we raised $42,000 dispersed amongst those 12
And I
charities.
seem to remember, Brady, there was a story early on that you gifted, I think, $1,000 when you're coming through a particular community.
Yeah. So when I went over 1,000 miles, that was just like such a cool achievement. And I thought it would be cool to give away $1,000. So um, I put on the Instagram, because I didn't want it to be like, hey, can I get the 1,000? I wanted the person to suggest someone else. And someone suggested Josh Woodward. And I went to his wife's account, Chelsea Woodward, and started just like scrolling through all the posts. And I got so emotionally attached like right away. Josh, he had just a regular cut that got infected, and he actually had sepsis and had to amputate his whole leg and his arm. But just going through all their posts and everything, he is such an inspiration. He's still alive today. He's a firefighter. He's got two kids. And I actually recently saw a picture of him mowing his lawn for like the first time since, I think it was like maybe 2018 or 17. So he's a champion. And yeah, the doctors only gave him a 5% chance of living through one of the nights. So I think that was the hashtag I saw. It was like 5% or something. So,
Wow.
just amazingly positive people. And again, back to that thing of good problems, I would think to myself when my foot was in pain, like, at least I have a foot.
So there's a couple questions, and it relates to some of what you're sharing. So
Sure.
there's questions about when you were injured, how long did you wait to run again, and how did you go about overcoming that injury?
Okay. Yeah. So it was on day 103 is when I felt the pain, and I kind of walked the rest of that day. Um, I was just on such a grind out there that I didn't want to stop. And looking back on it, after that day, I should have just, started resting. But I want to say I walked on day 104 and 105. And then on day 10, I think on day 105, both of my legs started hurting. So I was overcompensating on one of the sides, on my right side. And so day 106, just getting all the messages in from other people, I started to realize this could be really dangerous if I push this. And even in the RV, it was so bad, but I would lift my foot up and down, and I could feel the Achilles tendon just stretching. And I think it was, looking back on it, like really close to just tearing. So I took day 106 and 107 off. I slept, I rested, I iced, I watched Netflix, and all the support and messages that came in. One girl just, it was so great because at that point, I'm almost exposed. I'm vulnerable. I'm hurt. I'm weak. I'm at a low point in the trip. And I remember opening this one message, and I could have sworn the girl was going to tell me what stretches to do. And, I didn't want any of that. I just wanted, just tell me it's going to be all right. And she told me, it was so beautiful. She just said, you know what? Lean on this army of support you have right now. And when you're back on your feet, until you're back on your feet, that's what she said. And I thought that was so cool. I was like, yeah, thank you, and it felt great.
That's beautiful. I remember in your book you have a chapter on when you're low on oxygen, lean on others, and that's a great example of it right there.
Yeah. I think at least me, so much of my life, I've tried to just do everything on my own. And uh, I think sometimes it's good to just kind of be a lone wolf and do your thing. But when you need help, and everyone needs help at some point in their life.
So with a journey like this, I think people often want to know what the metrics are. So you started May, you finished November. How many miles did you average?
Gotcha. I'll give you some stats. All
There
right.
we go.
So May 5th, 2019, I touched the Atlantic Ocean. I ran for 218 days, 14 states, 9 pairs of running shoes. I ran with Hoka and New Balance. And yeah, finished December 8th in Del Mar, San Diego, California, at the beach there. And the total was 3,311 miles. And when I started the trip, I thought it would be around 3,000 miles, but I really didn't have a route. I never knew. I talk about this in the book, but we would just use Google Maps. And for the first few weeks, I would map out, okay, I'm going to run 13 miles, finish at this school or finish at this grocery store. And Nate would know, and he'd be waiting there with the RV. And as the trip went on, we just stopped doing that. And I would just run however far I wanted to run for the day, text them my location with a mile left.
So
And
that 311 was all bonus. It was
yeah,
added
yeah,
to.
yeah. So like even when I think I was in Arkansas, and I realized that um, I just got curious. And when you get curious, like, you're done. So I got curious, I looked it up, and I was like, I wonder how many miles it is to San Diego. And I think it was like 1,700, 1,800. And I thought I was at the halfway mark, 1,500. So um, yeah, I remember it was a tough pill to swallow to know that I had 300 extra miles. But I think the reason for that is I just chose places I wanted to see that I hadn't ever been before. So, I went, uh, let's say I went Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky. I went up to Kentucky, West Virginia, down to Tennessee, then Mississippi a little bit, and then Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and then I went Texas, the top of Texas, and we went from the top kind of New Mexico all the way down, and then to Tucson. So I was going all over the place. It was not the best line, but
you took a scenic route. But
yeah.
So last thing, you've been such an inspiration, Brady. I know when you hit the West Coast, you were going to tag the ocean, and there was some thoughts you may go back to the East Coast. But teasingly, what's next? You continue to inspire all those that have followed you.
Yeah. So kind of going off that first chapter I talked about, underthink it. Just following passions, and I know now I never thought I was going to be some big entrepreneur, or I didn't even consider myself an athlete until like a year ago. So I think it's not being afraid to go for it, even if I'm not in a certain industry, or I know now it doesn't matter what other people say. It's up to you, and if you believe you can do something, you can do it. If you don't believe you can do something, then you can't do it. So it really does depend on your outlook. And so I actually just became a manager of a up and coming artist. So that's something I'm kind of delving into, but I couldn't tell you an exact thing. Just keep, like I said, following my passions, trying to inspire people. And
well, I trust that you have a lot of living ahead of you, Brady.
Thank you. And definitely a lot of running, because it was not a show. I love running. Even though I'm wearing a shirt that says running sucks.
So Brady, thank you so much for coming and sitting down with me and sharing your story and your journey and your lessons. I really appreciate you doing that, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Of course, I had a blast. Thank you.
And best to you and your family, and we'll reconnect again soon. And to everyone else, be well, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Bye.